back to the channel here. Okay, as I said, we're ready to start doing our ribs now. As you can see, I've still got 4 racks of ribs stacked up over here. This cutting board, I can only get about 6 on here for right now. We'll do the rest of these off the camera. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna season these ribs up after I've trimmed them all, get a rub on them, and then get them on the smoker. I do like to let the ribs sit for about 30 minutes with the rub on to let that rub really tack up and soak into the meat. So when you're doing this, you got to do both sides. Now, typically what I do is on the back side of the ribs, I like to do a little less of a coating, and I like to do a heavier coating on the front side of the ribs. There's some stuff that you can do when you're done with your ribs, especially if you want them to really pop. There's some really flavorful seasonings that you want to maybe put on the underside of the ribs when they're done cooking. The reason for that is like when people typically, when they take a bite, the first thing that their lips and their mouth, their tongue are going to hit is the back side of that rib. And you want that first taste to knock their socks off. So we're going to use 3 rubs here today. I've used 4 before. I always use these 2. We've got Our Butts Are Smoking Ozark Heat and Our Butts Are Smoking Butt Kicking Chicken. You're like, Matt, that's a chicken rub. Why are you using it on pork? It goes great on everything. The first layer is going to be butt kicking chicken. Second layer will be Ozark Heat. And then we're going to top it off with Jess Pryles Hardcore Carnivore Red. This is just to give it additional color. This has some flavor to it, but it's mostly for color. Okay, so butt kicking chicken first. Again, this is the sweeter of the 2. Since we're putting 3 on here, we just want a light coating, light to moderate coating, but nothing too crazy. Always shake in the direction of the ribs. Ribs are something that you can over season, so you do want to be careful that you just want to do a moderate rub. You don't want to overpower the ribs. Now, you may notice that I did not use a binder on these. These ribs were still pretty moist from when I took them out of the package. I'm not a big binder guy anyway. You can use yellow mustard, you can use fancy mustard, you can use olive oil, you can use vegetable oil, whatever you want. I typically don't use a binder though. All the binder does, it allows the rub to stick to the meat faster. I like to take my time. It'll stick to the meat regardless. So this is the second one we're coming in here with the Ozark Heat. So there's still some sweetness to this one, but there's some more cayenne in this rub. It's got a little bit of a kick to it. Most of that heat will cook out of it though. My ribs are still fairly sweet. Part of that is because of the cooking process I do when they're in the middle of the cook. When I wrap with butter, honey, and brown sugar, and I also hit it with a little more rub as well. Okay, this is the third one we're coming on here with this is the Hardcore Carnivore Red. So this brand of rub, they've got several different kinds. They've got a Hardcore Carnivore Black as well. It's very peppery. I like this red one because it's got lots of good paprika in it. Paprika, while paprika does have a smoke consistency to it, it's also more used just mostly for color, especially when you're cooking pork butts and whatnot like that. So, all right, as you can see here, I've already got these down. You know what I might as well do while we're sitting here, so I'm not wasting time. I might as well do these other 4. We'll just do them all at the same time. No sense of okay. Flecks of stuff on there. It's all right. All right. Let's go ahead and get the butt kicking chicken on. I love that name. Some of the names of rubs that you can find at various barbecue stores are very creative. Some of them are kind of PG-13 as well. Names that you wouldn't say in front of your grandmother. Well, at least not my grandmother.
Well, except for the fact that your grandmother would probably say some of those words.
Well, you know, especially in some of her later years, she got a little edge to her. We were just talking about her the other day. Actually, it was yesterday. It was this time 3 years ago when she was diagnosed with cancer, and you know, she's no longer with us. But it was those last 8 to 9 months. We definitely spent a lot of time with her, and got to spend quality time, you know, on her last times, and we know we'll see her again someday. All right, this thing is all caked up here. Again, the hardcore carnivore red, you just want a light sprinkling of it. It's like I said, it's just mostly for color. It doesn't look like it much right now, but when you when it's cooking, you'll really notice the pop of the colors on there. Okay, so these are our 10 racks of ribs. We're going to let these sit for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to flip them over and do the other side, and they'll sit for about 30 minutes, and they'll go in the smoker. I got the smoker already going a little bit. We're getting ready to dump the coals into the fire, get the wood going, and then we'll put the chickens on. We'll probably put the chickens on probably in about 15 minutes, and then we'll get the ribs on probably in about 30, 45 minutes. So sit tight. We'll do the other side of the ribs when we come back.